We could also do guilty pleasures of other non-game
Yes,
stuff.
absolutely.
I have a few things in mind for anime.
Absolutely. Oh, I have some that I can never tell anybody about. But
So you'll hear it first here on the podcast.
no, I'm not gonna even talk about it. I can't even talk about it.
Look forward
That'll
to
be a
it.
duo cast. Just me and Kyle.
I'll do a off. We'll do a. You know what? For our Patreon followers, I will.
Let me be clear, we do not have a
Click
page.
Yeah.
the link in the Discord.
And if anybody comes with you saying, "Hey, bro, I need $20 in that Patreon." Good day to you, my Super Agile Nation, and welcome back to the Super Agile Kingdom with your boy, Sir Bradston, with the Knights of Gangsterness, the brothers
your boy.
themselves. It's your boy. As you can hear, we already have a brother in the building. I'm gonna go ahead and introduce him. We're gonna get right into it. My brother Kyle. Sir Kyle, how are you doing today?
Good day to you as well, Sir Bradston.
Yes,
Fine
yes.
on this eve of twos.
Yes. On the eve of gangsterness. And of course,
Gangsterness.
we have the knight himself in his shining armor.
Shining,
The brother,
shimmering,
the knight, Steve.
splendid.
How bid you adieu?
I'm sorry, Bradston. Your Steve is in another castle.
It seems that knights...
That's my Toad impression. That's
Oh.
yeah.
You didn't do the real Toad?
That's what he sounds like in my
in the
head.
other castle.
Actively dying.
Like the gurgly, like, just...
Yeah,
What
I
is
don't have
wrong
enough
with this
phlegm
guy?
in my throat for that.
Oh,
I don't know how Keegan did it. I think they must have pitched his voice for the movie.
Nah. All the phlegm.
He puts a golf ball in his mouth.
Mm.
I wouldn't put
Tries
it
to
past him.
swallow it.
Have you seen the sketch with the marbles, the Key and Peele sketch?
No.
Oh, it's great. He's like interviewing for a job, and I think it's like like to be a lawyer or something, just super official and hoity-toity. And the other guy is like, and he's got like all wood office and like paintings and this beautiful jar of marbles. And while he's talking about justice and how blind she is and like feeling her up the statue and stuff, he keeps looking at the marbles and eventually starts putting them in his mouth.
Oh.
And, and it's like, I'm so sorry, I don't know what came over me. But he keeps doing it and eventually he chokes and dies in the marbles.
Oh my.
That sounds like a Key and Peele sketch. Just
Yeah.
out of left field for no reason. I Key and Peele, they've done so many like method acting moments that
Mhm.
I'm 100%
Yeah.
sure that he's doing 100% Toad the way it needs to be done. Like no,
You don't think they pitched his voice?
No.
That's just natural.
I believe in him.
I 100% think it's him.
I really could not hear him until they said, I knew it was him ahead of time, but I had to like stop and listen again. Like, is that really him?
Was it kind of like realizing
forgot.
that Vin Diesel was Groot?
No, because I watched enough Iron Giant as a child to just know this man's voice immediately.
Yeah.
Wow, really interesting. I honestly,
You never watched Iron Giant?
no. I am Groot. I just never even thought to myself that they would have like any person of note doing that. Like
Just one of the writers in there.
it's like
Right.
they had to.
No, they paid Vin Diesel money for that.
Yeah, they paid Vin Diesel money for like Bradston Henry level voice acting. Like
the voice acting is not bad, but he's not doing anything.
He's not saying.
I am Groot.
He speaks with his intonation rather than the script.
Groot. Yeah.
Soy Groot?
Thou Groot. So
He never even like mixes it up. It's always I am,
am.
like the full sentence, not
Yeah.
just Groot or I am. Like
He's
am
not
Groot.
a Pokemon, so
Yes,
Pika,
exactly.
Pika,
It's not
Pika.
Pokey Talk.
Yo, speaking of the best moments of Poké Talk, I never finished the blog, but I was going to write it. I've written it, most of it. I should just go ahead and do it. But basically one of my favorite moments in Pokemon history is first season Pokemon anime where Pikachu and I think maybe Caterpie are talking
Yeah.
on a stump at night in Poké Talk. And it's like they're having a genuine it's like a solid 3
Deep.
minutes of them
Yeah.
going back and forth. And
And does it like pan across them as they're like
So-
realizing stuff?
yeah, they're just talking and it's like switching views of like who the speaker is. Sometimes it's both of them in a shot with the nice guy. And even as they're talking, it even does like a thing where like Caterpie is going, and then it shows a Butterfree flying across the sky. And it's like he's talking about the Butterfree and wanting to be Butterfree. And then like Pika being like, Pika-Pee. You know, it's like
They're
genuine.
having like a Simba Rafiki conversation.
Yeah, like a real deep, like, I got from that conversation, like, Caterpie's like, man, you know, why doesn't Ash love me? Oh, yeah, and they also do a shot where it's like Ash is sleeping and he's like talking toward Ash, like,
Right.
You know, no, Misty, like, I wish she would love me. Maybe if I become a Butterfree, she'll love me for who I am. Like, it's deep with nothing said. You know what I'm saying? So.
But they said everything at the same time. Like, those voice actors, man.
I watched a solid JJ video where Pikachu is talking and Meowth is like, what about the Holocaust? Like, it's implying that Pikachu is secretly like an alt-right troll. And Meowth is like, I'm not even going to repeat that. And Team Rocket's like, we don't want him anymore. You can have it.
You good.
Solid JJ's videos are so unhinged sometimes.
They're so great.
That's hilarious. So,
All right.
Speaking of just great moments in our lives, we want to talk about great moments. No, pretty much. I guess this is fair enough. Like, it's great moments to us. We want to talk about our guilty pleasures, like
secret moments,
particularly the moments that are the guiltiest of pleasures, the things that for us. I mean, actually, I want y'all to define guilty pleasures from your standpoint. But the things that we do that maybe you don't know from a gaming, and if we have time, we might talk about animes and movies and other type of media. But we're going to start with gaming and see how it goes. We don't have a ton of time. You know, we grown adults. We got jobs. We got lives. We got things to do. So this is going to be a shorter episode, but we're going to talk about it. So before we get started, how do y'all define the word guilty pleasure?
The phrase.
No, that's a whole nother story. I'm not going to tell the story. But yes, the phrase guilty pleasure.
I think correcting Bradston is one of my guilty pleasures. But I'm not that guilty about it. So it might just be a pleasure.
Because you're mostly wrong.
You're pretty open.
You're mostly wrong.
It's an open pleasure.
You're one of those people who's always technically correct, but that just means you're actually wrong. Technically.
Technically correct.
No,
and confidently incorrect.
It's just wrong.
It depends. Sometimes you can be technically correct, but like miss the spirit of what was being said.
Oh, like when you destroy a joke after someone tells it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's also other times. Actually,
yeah.
I can go first since I interrupted you. I would say a guilty pleasure in any situation. I don't think we have to define this, but here I am. A guilty pleasure would be anything that you enjoy, and you either feel bad for enjoying it, or you just assume other people won't enjoy it and don't want to talk about it. So it's like a secret pleasure.
Okay. Sir Kyle?
2 reasons.
I mean, like, his definition is good enough for me. I don't have anything to add to that.
He doesn't want expounding for. I mean, the only thing I would say is that pretty much that. But I think a guilty pleasure is something that, for me, I should probably not be doing with my time. Like, I could be doing something better with it, technically. Like, from a subjectively objective, whatever you want to say, like, most people would say, are you really doing that right now? You should probably be doing this. If you're doing this, you might as well do this. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I feel about it as well. In addition to what you said. Not
that they actually think that, but that you think they would think that?
Yes.
You expect them to?
Yes,
okay.
Yes. And maybe some cases they do think that, but
sure.
I might not
probably.
I might not even bring it up because I don't want them to know, you know?
Yeah.
So, okay. So let's jump right into it. I mean, Steve, you kind of proposed this idea, you know, in our pre-meeting. We have meetings, y'all.
Meetings.
So do you have a guilty pleasure game that come from the top of your head? Like, do you have one that really speaks to you?
You know, it's funny. I think that when I suggested this, I had something in mind. And I've been like fighting for it the last couple of weeks to get us to do it. And other things have come up. And now it's like, hey, let's do this one. And I'm like, crap, I don't remember. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Gotta be in your soul.
I mean, we've talked about this before. I think replaying games, I'll come back, all right? We'll come back to me. But for now, I'll say replaying games, especially older games, when there's so many new games to play is kind of a guilty pleasure. It's like I could be having all new experiences and enjoying that, but instead, let me play this thing that I've played 6 times already and beaten 4 times and not beaten twice, right? But still keep playing. Yeah, I'll come back to me. I'll have a better answer in a few minutes.
Okay, I feel that.
We'll see. We'll see how better it is.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe I'll have a worse answer.
I mean, for me, I can definitively say one of my guilty pleasures, and the thing is, I'm not as ashamed about this one. It probably falls more into I should probably be playing other games. Is Dynasty Warriors, and I started with Dynasty Warriors 3 on the PlayStation 2. My brother came back from college with the PlayStation 2, and somebody had introduced him to Dynasty Warriors. And that whole summer, I think I told y'all, I played the mess out of Dynasty Warriors. But it didn't end there. Like, pretty much that whole summer, well, it ended there in a sense because my brother took his PlayStation 2 back to college and I couldn't play it. But all I thought about was Dynasty Warriors. And there were so many other games for me to play during that summer, like on my brother's PlayStation 2. But all I played was Dynasty Warriors. Go to college, they make a Dynasty, like, Gundam game. Yeah. And I was like, oh, no. Like, Marcus, shout out to the boy, has the same struggle with Dynasty Warriors. Because I remember playing the demo on the Xbox 360 and he was in the room and he's like, Brad, you gotta stop. You gotta stop. You gotta stop. He kept saying that. I was like, nah, it's good. And like, I'm playing this demo for like a solid 2 hours, you know? And that's why for me, Hyrule Warriors 2, Age of Calamity, and currently, like actively, I am playing Dynasty Warrior 6
right now
instead of playing God of War.
As we speak.
You know, as we're having this conversation. Honestly, like, it's one of those games where I can just play it and 99% of the gameplay is just like moving around, killing people, doing the objectives. And it doesn't, like, to me, it's not one of those games where I feel like I'm actually accomplishing anything. Like, oh man, I had such a great battle with Lu Bu, you know? No, it's just me murking people with some overpowered person, and it just feels good. And I don't have to think. I think that's why I like it so much, you know? Like that. Yeah. But at the same time,
thinking's hard for you.
Any person who isn't a Dynasty Warriors fan thinks it's trash. They're like, this game is so stupid. Why would you waste your time? But you play Dynasty Warriors. Most of those people have never played Dynasty Warriors. It's kind of like crack. If you do crack, you can't say that crack ain't good. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense.
I do know what you're saying.
You can. Like, a dependency doesn't make it good.
You can say that, but you can't. You haven't like gone to
your actions won't prove it.
You don't know because you've never done it, so you don't know. But you know it's addictive because people are addicted to it. So why would you try it? And that's why people don't try Dynasty Warriors because they know it's like crack.
It's addictive.
You know.
I know.
There you go.
So, my, I guess, guilty pleasure from a gaming perspective is at least playing one. I don't have one right now, but I think the whole idea around mobile games, because I don't play them often, is like when I do play them, it's a guilty pleasure in the way that I kind of just like lose myself in them for a little while, and then rather than doing something else, I'm stuck to this whatever weird fidgety game that I found. And then I realized like 3 weeks later, I should not have spent this much time. Luckily, I don't have the problem where I like buy gyms and stuff. Because then I'd be in a really bad place because I'll be stuck to these mobile games for a while.
I feel like I can feel you. I feel like one of my current guilty pleasures, and from a mobile standpoint, is this game called Picture Cross or something like that.
Picross?
No, it's not even that clever.
Okay.
It's literally called Picture Cross. It's like they did not try, right? And it's one of those games where it's like it's kind of like the Sudoku type games, and but it's with images, right? Like, so you fill in these blocks, like, oh, if there's 1 and then 2, it's just a numbers kind of game. But the images are so terrible. Like I'll show Shailene whenever I finish one, like, hey, look at this. She's like, what is that? I'm like, they said it's a hedgehog, but it did look like
I know which game you're talking about now.
It's so bad. I might have even shared a picture with y'all in Slack before, because it's just So
My
terrible.
wife played a Sudoku version for a little while, I think.
Yeah, it's like it's so simple. And literally, I've played. Let me. I'm gonna open it right now as we're speaking. I think I've played over 300 of the level, like completed 300 levels. I've never played.
Jeez.
I've never paid a dime because they want you to pay money in order for you to like get the, to get coins so you can do more levels each day.
Yeah, refill your energy.
Exactly. But each day, if you log in daily, you get like daily rewards. So let's see. I've done. Let's see, 64 plus 100 plus 100 plus another 100 plus another. Like I've done like 300 levels, and they rank and they range in difficulty from like super easy to like very hard. And like when me and Shailene are eating dinner and we might just be watching a TV show, if we're not talking or something, I might just pull it out and play a level. It's like, I don't know. It's my thing.
Yeah. So the game I was stuck on was it was called Find Out. And
mess around and you'll find out.
And I did. And so it was kind of like a I Spy type game, but with the like similar mechanics to those like idiot test games, where the developers think of these really just ridiculous scenarios that you're just supposed to figure out. Kind of how old point and click games used to be, where it's like there's no possible way you could find out the solution. But since it was an I Spy thing, you'd have to like shake your phone or like tap on a piece of glass with 2 fingers 3 times.
So there's like a little tactile interaction involved.
Yeah, and so that's what got me hooked because like the first level kind of lulls you in a false sense of security, where it's like, oh, I just had to tap this couple times and I accidentally moved my phone and that's how I got this. But then later on, it's just like every interaction is like spin your phone 4 times, go to your lock screen and come back to turn off the lights in the room in the game. What? Yeah,
that's
like
interesting.
I don't even know how they're tracking this stuff, but I was mostly going back because it was a combination of frustration and intrigue when I couldn't beat a level. And I'd be stuck on one for like 4 days. And I'd go back. Sometimes I'd restart it because there were also sometimes conditions. Like I remember this barbershop one. This guy's cutting this other guy's hair. And if you put the shaving cream on his head before you like cut his hair or something, then that makes it to where you can't take off the barber's toupee.
What?
And so you can't 3-star the level.
You can soft lock the greatest achievement in that level.
Yeah. And so then you have to restart entirely and remember the sequence you went through to get to that point. And I was like, this game right here, this is going to be... and it was a problem. I said it was going to be a problem.
Sounds like Hitman.
I guess in some ways...
I was re-listening to one of our older videos and I kept talking about Hitman. And I'm like, I never even played Hitman, so I don't know why.
It's got such strong mechanics that even if you haven't played, you know what it's about.
You know what it's about.
Yeah.
Find out.
All right. I thought of one. All right. So you mentioned mobile games, and I don't play it anymore, but for a while I played Pokemon Go with some friends, and I enjoyed it, and I hated that I enjoyed it. Yeah, but what happened was they started blocking people who had rooted phones or custom firmware, and so that was me. And I got indignant with them, and I stopped. Because they were like, oh, these people are rooted so they can cheat. I'm like, no, I'm rooted so I can control my hardware. Thank you, sir. But I got so indignant I stopped altogether.
Control his hardware by cheating.
I just imagine them like actively coming to you and be like, I'm sorry, we're blocking you. You're blocked. Like they just
take your phone.
They snap my phone in half. I'm like, that's not even a flip phone. How'd you do that?
You're done. You're done here.
Yeah. So Pokemon Go, it's one of those games. I think everybody who plays it, it's a guilty pleasure.
Nobody actually likes that game.
I don't know, man.
I'll be super honest with y'all. I never liked that game. There's never a moment like I tried. Especially when we were at IBM. I know people were into it.
Yeah,
and, they would go around. Like I remember
Lunch
Kyle.
breaks.
When we go to lunch. You'd be like catching people. So I'd watch you. Like I was intrigued.
Catching people.
They
caught him. The game's catching people.
Like, please let me go. Please.
Get over here.
I would watch you like catch some random Pokemon or whatever. So I was intrigued by the mechanics and the But like, I don't know. Like, I installed it, and I was like, I just don't understand why people want to do this. Like,
I think the
don't know.
social element is what had me drawn, because as soon as the group that I played with left, I uninstalled the game. And so the amount of hours that I put into it were inconsequential to not having anybody to play with.
Right. Yeah, for me, it's fully it's a Fortnite experience. Actually, Fortnite's probably a guilty pleasure. That feeling might not wash off for a while, but I have been having pleasure with you guys playing it. So as soon as we stop playing it, it'll be like Apex. I'll just also stop.
I want to shout out to one of the homies. I'm gonna just call him Homie V. I'm not gonna dox him in case.
Call this man out.
V. Like V for Vendetta. Let's call him Vendetta.
Let's call him Vendetta. The boy Vendetta. Actually, I knew a Vendetta. It was a B girl. Anyway, so we'll call him Vendetta.
Pretty cool name.
Vendetta. We played with him one time.
One time. All it took.
And he was not like super enthused about it. Matter of fact, he revealed more recently that he did it as a favor to me. Like, he was like, "Hey man, like I'm
Vendetta's a nice guy."
He was like, I'm just getting to know Brad.
Poor
I don't really know him like that. Like, he's like, I didn't play it because I want to play. I played it for him. That's what he said in a group of people. And the reason I'm saying this is because we were talking. It was a group of guys. We were doing a Young Marrieds like Christmas event, and like a whole bunch of us were talking. And he's like, "Y'all got to play Fortnite." And they were like, "Man, we ain't trying to play Fortnite." He's like, "Look, man, I'm not even interested in the game. I thought the game was stupid. I played the game as a favor for him, like for him. And I won't lie, man, the game is solid." And so he basically convinced two people who had no desire. Well, one of them had a little bit of desire because he's down to play games, but one of them 100% said absolutely not, that we would all squad up one day. So us four are going to play Fortnite in the future.
Oh, snap. You can show them the ways.
Yeah, and he was telling them, he was like, "Yo, son, you play with Brad, man, you gonna get dubs. We got like 5 dubs." He's like the commander. He's like, "Go up here," and then we go up on the top, and we just be like shooting down on people. And he's like, "Go over here," and I was dying laughing. I was like, "Well, I appreciate
it's the truth."
They just changed the map and the weapons, and we won a few, but we've been losing more often, and I think it's just because Brad hasn't figured out all the soft points in the game yet.
Once them tactics come through, we're in it.
Yeah, it's that, and none of us are used to the weapons. But I think the weapons. Once Brad learns, we'll all learn.
They are a little weak. Now the weirdest part to me about the game is how they manage high points and the verticality is messing with me. Like where we should position ourselves, it still don't feel right. So
there's like a legit mountain there now that goes crazy high.
It's like, oh, like before it's just like one high point. Now it's like medium, low, valley. It's like balloons. It's like, okay, cool. Oh yeah, and then people with balloons, so that changes tactics. You can't just be too aggressive up top. So anyway.
I have a question if you don't have one.
Well, are we done with our guilty pleasure games, or like? I mean, if you have a question, go ahead. You know what? Just throw it out there.
Bring it on.
There. Let's go.
All right. So maybe an alternative definition would be a game that you don't think other people would judge you for, but that you yourself judge. You judge yourself for. Right. And there's probably some overlap there, right? Like with Fortnite or with Pokemon Go, especially. I'm like, ew, mobile games. Yeah. Maybe most people I play with don't care.
Yeah,
but that's how I feel. What are some games that you guys? Well, I don't know. Are there maybe different games now that I bring that up? Different games that come to mind for you guys, where you're like, oh, maybe.
I mean, I would have definitely put Fortnite on there, like not too long ago. But now I'm kind of like a proponent of it, so I've kind of switched over. You know what's funny? Like I was gonna actually say this. You just reminded me. One way that I define guilty pleasure games are like games that I probably shouldn't be playing because I like when I said earlier, oh, I should be playing something else. Like, like I'm playing Dynasty Warriors, but I should be playing God of War. Other guilty pleasure games are like, I'm playing this game instead of doing something probably responsible or
like being a human,
being an adult. And I think me and Shailene have a few like guilty pleasure games. One is Overcooked. And y'all know about this, but we have basically perfected the game. Like, at least Overcooked 2. Overcooked 1 has some weird, like, DLC levels that are, like, super broken. But every possible level in Overcooked 2, we have perfected, meaning getting 4 stars.
3 stars? Oh, 4
4
stars.
stars. So 3 stars is, like, hard. Basically, 4 stars is, like, you can't mess up. Like, there's no...
And you do this by yourselves, just the two of you?
Just us two. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So here's my question, right? I feel like a lot of the stages, I've only played the first game.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of the stages require 4 people to get good.
At least in the first one, that was true.
No,
is that not true in the second one?
It's not in either. It's not in either.
Well, okay.
In Overcooked 1, at least in the main story, you can beat every single level and 4-star every single one with 2 people. You know,
I know we got 3 stars for 90% of them.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we're just not good. We can't manage it.
And when I say it's like a guilty pleasure, I'm telling you, we have played for 2 hours, 1 level, until we figured out. There's like one other like couple who plays online and they like show their videos, but they don't talk like strategy. They just show them 4-starring, and we'll watch their levels, how they play, to get some insight. When we first weren't 4-star, when we first started 4-starring, now we can 4-star anything. Like at first we didn't understand like the nuances. We'd watch it to see the things that they did differently than us. And weirdest thing about Overcooked
picking up
is that
over there.
Yeah, we're looking up people's like trying to understand how they play because they don't explain it. They just play. Overcooked does updates that change some of the quote unquote meta, not like on certain levels that are super difficult.
Yeah.
So it does change strategy. One thing that changed the game for us is realizing we need to do all of our orders in order, because it's impossible to get 4 stars if you don't do them exactly in order. If you mess up,
I thought everyone knew that.
No, we got 3.
So you were 3-starring stuff not in order?
Yep. We didn't know. We didn't know.
That's like our basic thing is trying to do them in order.
Yeah,
that's the only thing we know.
We didn't realize.
I know if you get some done early, like you get the bonus points in the streak, and then some were like worth more, I think.
So the big thing is the multiplier is everything. If you don't do them in order, it doesn't matter how much more points you get from like doing something early. So anyway,
I thought if this is just is if you do them out of order, not if you just miss one. The multiplier.
Yeah. So the multiplier will break if you miss one, or you do them out of order.
Ah, it's been a while since I played that game.
Mm-hmm. And
that's interesting.
And that changes everything. It's impossible to get 4-star otherwise.
You should feel guilty for knowing all this about Overcooked.
During the pandemic, me and Shailene were home all the time together. Like, all the time. Like, I worked from home and she wasn't working because her job, she wasn't working. And that was what we did for fun. We just played Overcooked. And then we beat Overcooked, and then we got Overcooked 2. Overcooked 2 is a much better game. So, yeah.
Okay. Oh my gosh. You know what my real guilty pleasure is? This is completely unrelated to the question I just asked you guys.
Great.
It's solitaire.
Oh, yeah. I remember you mentioning that.
I used to watch my mom play when I was a kid. And that was like, one of the pre-installed Windows games. When I tell you that I installed this game, it's not installed on my machine by default. I installed it myself to play on like phone calls and stuff. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I've gotten to the point where I can, if I can't beat it, I usually beat it in like 4 or 5 minutes. I know you can probably do faster. I know there's also, I don't know how often you're supposed to like statistically come across a game that you cannot beat. Mm-hmm. It seems to happen to me somewhat often, but yeah, I'm like, I've honed my solitaire senses. I'm like, I'll send screenshots to my mom. It's like, look where I got stuck, or like, look how fast I beat this, or something.
He's becoming a solitaire sensei.
I'm like emailing my mother. I feel like I'm 40 years older than I am.
40 years old. Yeah. So, what are you in your 80s?
Yes, because that's the life of an 80-year-old is emails.
Emailing his mom. If you were printing, we talked about this before. If you were printing it out and then sending it through the mail,
then you're 80.
Then you're 80 years old.
That's probably fair.
Geriatric solitaire.
Yeah, I think solitaire is my true guilty pleasure because I feel ultra basic playing this card game when I could be. I mean, I can't really. Like, I purposefully wanted a game that I can play while I'm paying attention to something else. Because usually I can't do that. You know, I can't play Bejeweled while I'm like having a conversation or watching TV or something like you said. So this is it for me.
If it ain't broke,
why fix it?
Digitize it.
I have another guilty pleasure game that wasn't. It's not a digital game though, and it was my wife and I would play a lot of Villainous, like almost every night for like a solid month, a couple of months back. But we got busier. You guys know what Villainous is? I think I've talked about
it on the show one time.
Yeah. So anyway, it's Villainous is a Disney game. And you play.
That's all I need to know.
that whisper was so uncomfortable.
That was quite a whisper.
We're gonna have to edit that whole whisper. Like I'm gonna just put in Michael Jackson going. But anyway, continue.
So Villainous is a licensed Disney game that where you play as the villain, and so it's a tabletop game. And so your objective as the villain is, it usually follows the storyline of whatever movie they're in. And so the mission that the heroes thwart, in this game, you get to play out that whole story, but as the villain. And so your objective is to actually win.
Okay.
And so the way it works is there's hero cards. There's like these chance cards type of things, which are called fate cards. And like every turn, you have to move around on your personal board, and you're trying to complete your objectives. And person you're playing with, quote or / against, is a different villain in their world trying to do their thing. And the way you kind of hinder them is by fating them. And so you cause a disturbance in their world.
The Force.
I was waiting.
Yeah. Which usually it's in the same way like it happened in the movie, like the hero shows up and takes the MacGuffin, and that's how you lose and stuff. But then in this game, you can actually kill the hero. They come back sometimes because of the fate cards or whatever. Defeat them, I should say. Maybe not kill them. But I would highly recommend it. It's got kind of a steep learning curve, but once you get it for one hero or one villain, the hero of their story, then you're good. Like you can play any hero, you can mix and match. They have Marvel ones, which underneath the Disney property. And they have like old school.
Own it all.
They do.
So this is your guilty pleasure.
It was for a while. I'm struggling to think of one that I have now aside from the mobile game. So I'm kind of digging into my backlog of previous guilty pleasures.
You just reminded me of a game. Shout out to Dynamic, aka Antoine, because I feel like there's a card game that for a time, like me, him, and some people from IBM that used to work with on the mobile team, we would set up like board game nights, or board game days, I guess, on a Saturday. And I somehow stumbled into the game Boss Monsters, which I think maybe, Steve, you've played it, huh?
I think so.
Yeah. And Boss Monsters, basically, it's kind of similar to Villainous, where you play the boss of a video game. So you're the villain. And you have to create a dungeon to stop heroes from making their way into your dungeon and killing you. So you have to it's a card game, and you basically build your dungeon with these cards, and you make their like trap rooms and monster rooms. And like your goal is to kill more heroes, or kill 10 heroes, or get 10 souls before your other competitors, right? So we would play this game. We played it one time. It's kind of like you said, like Villainous has a steep learning curve. At first it feels like, okay, I got to build rooms, and there's a build mode, and there's an action phase, and then there's, they come to town. Like there's all this stuff happening. But once you get it, it's like, oh, so you play like one game, and then we were like, oh. And we played that game hardcore. We had all these other board games. We had brought Catan. We had brought Munchkins. But we would end up just playing Boss Monsters until we all had to go. It got so bad that Antoine found another copy of Boss Monsters, and we would merge our decks when we played with each other so that more people could play together.
Oh, snap.
And we basically, when we did that, Oh, and we'd have more cards in deck. Basically, I had to mark every single one of my cards so that at the end, we'd know whose cards are what. But that's how hardcore we were playing the game. Like, it was a problem.
Wild.
And we'd have like a church event, and we'd be like, boss monsters. All of us would just go to the corner. And we had to play boss monsters. Like, hardcore.
You guys were the squad.
Yeah, it was a problem. It was a problem. Shout out to Dynamic.
You said
My
boss
family
monsters.
loves Catan. I played a lot of Catan. Sorry, you're asking if it was boss monsters. That was the question, Kyle.
What? No, it's good. I had more to say, but that's fine.
Oh, I'm sorry, man.
No, you're good.
Okay, yeah, I played a lot of Catan in high school. Like, we would finish my senior year. We finished classes like a couple weeks before exams, and the teachers were like, "All right, have fun." And so we played a lot of Catan. And then later, my brother got really into it, and now my mom is into it, and they love it, and I'm kind of tired of it. But they always want to play it. I think it's my guilty pleasure not to enjoy it, Catan. Like, I feel bad for not being as into it as they are.
Just want to play with you, Steve.
Yeah, it's it's so funny because my mom, Catan is a game where you have resources that you develop every hand. People roll the dice, and everyone gets some random resource, or they don't, depending on the number that is rolled. And on your turn, depending on what you want to build, you can open up for trade with other players to get the resources that you need. If you don't have it, my mom will always ask for a trade, whether she can do something with it or not. It's like she'll do a bunch of things, and then she'll ask for trades again, and she'll ask every single person like by name, and it takes so long, and it drives my brother and I crazy. We're like, have one thing in mind and ask for the trade, and if no one takes you up on it, that's it.
She's
like,
being
please.
thorough.
She's so thorough, it drives us crazy. And then she wins sometimes. Like, she's not bad at the game. So
it's a strategy. She's wearing you down mentally.
It really is like that. Yeah. Oh my gosh. You guys mentioned, so I think it was Brad, you mentioned like Dynasty Warriors, which is kind of like a genre in and of itself. So my thinking is that one of my guilty pleasures, as I'm looking at my Steam backlog, one of my guilty pleasures is all 2D Metroidvanias. I feel like the genre is so like specific, but I keep buying them and I keep loving them all. But like, AM2R was the Metroid 2 remake, the Metroid game that came out last year. I ate that junk up. I haven't played it yet, but I have Axiom Verge in my backlog. Hollow Knight, Ghost Song just released. I had that on my wish list for like 5 years. Like, I'm so into them. And I feel like, I don't know, they're so much fun to me. They don't usually differ a ton. Like, don't get me wrong, I think they all bring their own things to the table. But like I said, it's a hyper-specific type of game. And so some people might look at me and think like, oh, he only plays this, like, it's like comfort food, I guess, right? Like, you know what to expect. I know what to expect, even though that's part of the point is you don't necessarily know what to expect in a Metroidvania. But I kind of know like what I'm getting. And so maybe I'm less likely to branch out to other types of games because it's comfort food. I know what I'm getting.
Yum, yum.
Yeah. I feel like comfort food games can be good. Like, I mean, I've said it 100 times. Dead Rising is one of my comfort food guilty pleasure games. I definitely should be playing that instead of other games. There's just some games that just feel like home. That just make you feel like if I had Wind Waker, I'd probably play that a lot. Because that game just brings me to a place that, and a special time in my life, that I feel I should not be playing this, like you said, but it's special. I don't know. I feel like I'm trying to think if there's any other games that I've played recently that have been guilty pleasure games, because a lot of them for me are on other consoles, and I don't necessarily pull them out. But more recently, I've pulled out my 360 and my, and like, I feel like there's games that are really driving me to kind of like, oh, pick it back up. You should pick it back up, like, you want to, even Mega Man. Y'all saw me play Mega Man 9. Like I
the Rage game.
I hate that game, but secretly,
There you go.
Like
yeah.
I try not to play it because it gets my blood pressure up, but it's like I don't know. There's something about it, you know.
I get mad watching you play that game.
Well, let me ask you all this: is there any games that like you don't enjoy playing while you're playing it, but it's like something that you're happy when you after the fact? You know what I'm saying? Like a really difficult game, a really frustrating type game, like a Dark Souls-y type. Hades. Oh, I already got one for you, Steve. I feel like Hades has to be that.
Hades is a cakewalk for Steve.
Yeah, I haven't really been having trouble with it recently.
I mean, for Steve now. But in the past, did you not feel some like this hurts
There was
me?
a little bit of grind. I wouldn't compare to Dark Souls though, because I mean the point is to lose until you get good enough to win. So it's like built in. I guess it also is built into Dark Souls now that I think of it.
I mean, you put it that way, yeah, it kind of is.
Dang.
Get good is
You
was
might
like
be
the
right.
mantra.
I think Hollow Knight was like that, where it's like you really just have to like some of the bosses, especially in the DLC, is just absurd, and that's a game that I can throw my head against the wall over and over and enjoy it. Unless I don't, and then I have to take a break.
So your comment earlier, like about genres, got me thinking about the even earlier question, or I guess way that you put guilty pleasures as like games that you shouldn't be playing, or that you don't want anybody to find out that you play, type of thing. And so you reminded me of one of the reasons why a throwback, Scratch the Itch, check it out on YouTube, was created, is because unexplainably I have this weird affinity towards terrible,
I was going to say trash.
garbage games.
Trash.
Yeah.
I can't explain it. And I don't know why they bring me so much joy.
Objectively trash, not subjectively.
No,
objectively.
objectively.
Yeah.
Like just poorly made, barely made in some cases, like hardly functioning. No game design decisions were made. It's just stuff was just here. It is game is what they say.
I think that when I introduced this topic, I was specifically thinking of you, Kyle. I'm like, surely he has a pile. So I'm glad that we're just getting it all out here all at once.
Here it is. Yeah, all at once. So indie games or games made by actual studios, it doesn't matter. Mobile games are some of my favorites. I've shared them with you guys when I should have been working or something else. If you haven't tried a terrible game, I suggest it. But it's not for everybody. I will admit that.
Wasn't it you who started the cringe only? I think it was my idea, but I think you're the one who's been populating our cringe meme channel in Slack.
The last couple of days, yeah. I think the last couple of posts have been from me.
But because I'm like, that seems like your cup of tea. Cringe games, cringe memes.
I remember, Kyle, one time you showed us this game. It was like a dino battle game, or like it's like some weird dinosaur, like you raised the dinosaur and it fought. And it was just so bad. And I was like, what are you doing? What is this game? And that's the thing. Like, I feel like you've played so many of these that they all are just one mass of just terrible experiences. You might not be able to like say, oh, this is the name of that game. This is the name of that game. Like, but I just specifically.
You just remember how you felt.
Yeah. Like I specifically remember you playing this game and being like, dude, what is even happening here? Like,
you're fully aware these games, I know they're trash, but I can't put them down anyway. I got a problem.
I would say that for a while, and it's never like by my choice. Like horror games are like a guilty pleasure in the sense that like I absolutely hate every moment of them, but I'll just keep playing. Like there's some weird part of me. Like, Scratch the Itch, going back to Scratch the Itch, what probably one of our best episodes, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Was when we played, what was that game called?
Season 1 finale, Linger.
It was like a popular indie horror game. Kyle is absolutely against horror games. So, of course, I was the one driving. And, like, looking back at it now, I'm like, okay, like, it was kind of goofy. But, dude, in the moment. That game was ridiculous. Like, Kyle wasn't even playing. I'm playing on my computer, and I'm pretty sure it's a bright room. Kyle is watching me play like over Zoom or whatever we were using to screen share at that time. So he's not even necessarily seeing it real time per se. But that game
secondhand
had so much the vibe, right? And there's a moment where honestly, like, I don't really know what happened. I was just screaming and yelling like there's a monster, like this girl coming out the TV at us, and then like she, like, just how it went down, and then all of a sudden it's just like she disappeared, and we're like, what, like, you know. But I'll play games like that. I played all the way through PT. I played through Dead Space. I played through a lot of bit of what's that game? Not Asylum. There's a whole bunch of different games that I've played through, but nobody else will play them. I'm the guy. And I'll scream and I'll yell. But I'll keep going forward for some reason.
I think when we were playing Linger, you were screaming so loud that your wife came and checked on you.
Yes. And she was upset at me.
Did you wake her up or something?
I think so. I might have woken her up, or I terrified her in some degree. And she came in and yelled at me for like, what? Why are you screaming? And we were living in an apartment at the time, so I could only imagine our neighbors were like, what is happening? You know, so
screaming for a solid hour.
I know Marcus wants me to play the Dead Space remake.
You should stream it.
Is it out?
You gotta.
No, it's still in development, huh?
I don't know.
It should be.
I don't think it's out yet.
I'm pretty sure it's just in development. I'll do it.
It's the. I was thinking that the reviews were out, but I'm thinking of the other one that just came out recently.
Oh yeah.
Shoot, man, the one that everyone was looking forward to because it was like, oh, it's like Dead Space, but now everyone's
so
saying
hyped.
It's not good.
The one that
shoot, what is it called?
What?
Super gritty game. I don't know.
The Callisto Protocol.
Oh,
there it is.
Oh yeah, that does look like Dead Space, like off-brand Dead Space.
Well, it's by the people who made one of the. I think it's part of the team that made Dead Space.
Makes sense.
So everyone was hyper stoked, but then the reviews basically are saying that it's
okay.
Mostly empty,
half baked,
mid.
Yeah, middling game. Man, I think a lot of people could appreciate or, I don't know, empathize with me when I say I think that maybe one of my guilty pleasures is just buying games with the hope that I'll play them one day.
Not no more, man.
I'm like scrolling through my backlog. Yeah, I haven't bought. I've been severely more disciplined recently, but God, my backlog is so long. It's ridiculous. To me, it's ridiculous. I'm sure someone listening is just an absurd backlog.
I feel like
mine's pretty bad.
I feel like Steam sales became more torture than pleasure after a point, because I'm like, oh man, like this game's $5, this game's $3, this game this, and you get them all, and you're like, when am I going to play?
Nickel and dime yourself.
Exactly, and you have all these games. I don't even have that many games, but I have too many games. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's not hard to have too many.
It's like, you know,
especially if you have big games.
Yes, that's the worst part. Like big games, and you start them, and you're like, yo, this game's about to be a problem. You know, I remember I downloaded the game Rock of Ages. It was like on sale. I heard it was good. I played it like
Download of Ages.
I played it 3 times, and I was like, I'm good. I'm like,
what got me?
Yeah,
was in like 2018. I discovered the Humble Bundle monthly
Oh man, what a mistake!
Oh, you got the
so for like, but for like the same amount you pay for like PlayStation Plus, like maybe a couple bucks more, you get access to like 100 games for the year. And they roll out every month, and you used to be able to like choose which ones you want. And sometimes it'd be games that came out that year. So like the value was there a lot of times, but it severely inflated my backlog.
Full of garbage.
There's a lot of garbage in there. And a lot of humble games, which hit and miss.
I purposefully did not. Like, I would buy bundles, but I would only redeem the games that I wanted to play. So my Humble Bundle backlog is a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
But, like, if you include it, I mean. But, like, there's a lot of games. I mean, some of them we had to redeem in packs. So I do have a little bit of that bloat in my Steam backlog. But
I honestly think I might have some Humble Bundle codes that have probably expired at this point. Like,
do they expire?
I just
They're not supposed to.
I just assume that if there's an indie game company, and normally whatever platform they distributed them on, in order to make your codes, you got to go through the process. And if that company is defunct or it's no longer like heavily supported, there's a chance that game is just like in the wind, you know? and I never got that copy. But the thing is, I'll never play it. It's just noise, more or less. Speaking of a game, like me and Shailene just started playing this game called, I might have mentioned it to you, something of Magic, Mages of Magic or something. It's a humble game.
It's a bad name.
And it's not great, but it's not that name.
Okay.
And I'll remember it. It's on the Switch. It's a humble game, and it's a roguelike. And what basically the game is like, and this is becoming our current guilty pleasure game of like, we should probably be doing something else. Well, hey, it's the end of the night. We're just chilling. Essentially what the game is it's a roguelike game. So it's, randomly generated games, levels. And you're trying to get to the end of this like I just remembered it. But anyway, you're a wizard and you're trying to get through the academy, but you have to beat the teachers. And there's different stages. So
interesting.
In order to get through the trials, you basically have to beat 2 levels. You have to beat 3 sets of 2 levels and a teacher. And it gets increasingly more difficult. And we managed recently to get to the second teacher and beat it. But the teachers change every time you go start a new session. And man, it's brutal, dude. It's brutal.
That sounds pretty cool.
It's a fun game. There's a weird thing. I don't know if it's my Switch, or the game itself, but it doesn't read input sometimes, and it'll get you murdered, absolutely murdered. And it's like one mistake, you're getting comboed in the corner and then hit into a pit. So
really important for roguelike games.
Yeah, so I feel like it's a game that. It's not the best game that we've ever played or that I've ever played. And it's maybe not a game that I think everybody should play. But for us, I think it's a perfect game for us. It's challenging. We're getting better. And it seems to have some level of infinite gameplay, So I feel like it's a medium guilty pleasure game right now. When we beat it, it might become guilty pleasure if we keep playing.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel, I don't know if I would, well, maybe it's a guilty pleasure. Do you guys ever feel like you're playing a long game that has main quests and side quests? And sometimes I feel this way. I feel guilty for continuing to play past where I should be playing it, because instead of beating the game, I'm filling out all the side quests, or I'm finding my fun in some way. And it's kind of hey man, just finish the game and move on.
Get to it. Yeah.
Do you guys ever feel that way?
I can feel that, especially in open world games or games with non-linear level systems, even as different sections. But usually when the developers are really good at hiding secrets, and if the side quests, even if I guess they don't add to the story, they're fun to do, I blame them. Because in some ways I do feel guilty. I felt kind of guilty when I was playing through Breath of the Wild, just because at the beginning of the game they tell you the stakes are super high, and every time you look in that direction you see this giant tornado of purple death magic, and you should probably go do something about that. But it's there is something over there that's really shiny though. So
yeah, that's actually an issue with that game. It's sorry, you cut out for a second, so I don't know how badly I interrupted you, but I know I interrupted you. So I'll just briefly say, the plot is so urgent, but the gameplay is so lackadaisical. Yeah. Very weird. Anyway, please continue.
It is a little dissonant. That was pretty much done.
I actually think that's one of the weirdest things about the games in general, when they tell you must do this thing now, but you kind of can just casually go do something else. I prefer when a game just says, whenever you're ready, it is time. You know what I'm saying? To do it. So it's
when they make it match.
Yeah, I just hate that. In a few days' time, the world will be destroyed. Man, it's been 18-day night cycles, bro. And I'm still over here fishing. Actually, I feel like the game that, well, first of all, Horizon Zero Dawn, 100% was a problem for me. I did all the side quests that I could. Literally got everything that I could possibly get up to a certain point. But for me,
is that game time boxed?
No, and that's the problem with it. It's like you just kind of roam, and then you see some cool creatures, and you get their parts, and then you get a new weapon, and then you get a new piece of clothing that gives you this, and then the better version of this weapon, and then there's trials, and it just keeps going, but you're not doing the main story, right? Eventually, I was like, all right, I just need to do the main story. You know what game is really the biggest problem for me, and I had to put down, was The Witcher 3. Like,
I knew you'd bring that up.
I haven't talked about it crazy amount, but that game is so good, dude. Like, even with its, like, you can tell that it was made in the past, you know, mechanically and stuff like that.
Showing its age a bit.
Yeah, it shows its age, but the side quest, like, honestly, half of the side quests are better than the story that I think I should be doing. Like, sometimes I'm like, wait, am I doing the main story? Like, this is just so well done. The voice acting, the pacing, it's multiple stages. The fights are like getting more and more increasingly difficult. There's these characters with nuanced relationships, and you do a side quest that actually impacts another side quest. And these characters are like, oh yeah, we met before. Or like, oh, we didn't meet, but you're introduced in, but if you had done that other thing before in the game, like, it is so crazy. And there's so much lore and these cool monsters that I've never heard of. Like, all of that, like, Witcher monsters are so cool and interesting to me. Like, it's really hard for me to stop doing the side quests. Like, I'm going to be level 50 doing level 5 main story quests. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then I feel like I'm realizing even all the story side questing I'm doing, I accidentally walked into an area that was a side quest for something else that I had started, and I got killed instantly by a monster, like instantly. And I said, there's levels to this. Like, and I was like, I must play more. Like, so
I'll be back.
You know, that's how it felt. And I was like, yo, this game's a problem. So that's definitely, I might play some of that over the break, because it's so fun. The stories are so good.
Look at what you've done.
Yeah.
I've heard that a lot about the side quests in The Witcher. I need to play it, but it's got me thinking, you know, that Witcher probably has like a lot of the same, as far as like polish elements, that God of War does, as far as, you know, a really, really tight narrative, no matter where you're spending your time, along with great moment to moment gameplay. And it's kind of hard to do, because I remember playing through like Spider-Man, and it had like side quests in it, but most of the side content was you go to a point and then you like do a thing. But I mean, there were a lot of them didn't have like narrative to go along with them, but they still felt really good to do. And I think that's a pretty interesting concept, is like, you know, you can get stuck on the side content even if it's not, you know, as heavily emphasized like in The Witcher or in God of War.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel...
Yeah.
Go. Yeah, what were you going to say, Steve?
I was just going to say, everyone knows I've been playing Death Stranding for like 2 years now.
He's halfway done.
Of the reason... I mean, honestly, it might really just be... part of the reason is that it's difficult for me to make time to play it, because I have to, like, you know, boot into Windows and kind of turn off everything else I was doing. Like, it's just... it's harder for me to do that, time box that. And like I said a couple episodes ago, it doesn't always respect your time with the cutscenes. So I have to make sure I know what I'm getting into. But the real issue recently is that I unlocked the zip line, so you can create zip points. And as long as any zip point that has line of sight within 300 meters of another zip point, you can just ride a beam of light to the other one.
Nice.
And you can create a network of these things. And I'm at the part of the game where there's a lot of mountain climbing, which is bad enough. But then also the mountains are haunted, and I don't have my ghost vision baby. So I'm very hampered when I in dealing with these game-ending ghost monsters. And I'm out here with a bunch of zip lines, like trying to create a network when I should just be like playing and trying to not die. just for the pleasure of zooming over the ghosts and like hearing the music change and like, oh, watch out. But like I just keep going.
Oh yeah, totally worth it after that.
It's so worth it. Yeah. Also because like it helps me do the side quests, which I shouldn't be doing at this point, but I can do the side quests faster because I can just zip zoom zoom over the mountain
instead of actually doing
climbing
the
it.
horrible.
Yeah.
I don't need no baby.
You know, that reminds me of a game. I think I've mentioned it on here before I think it was called Free Space, which was basically like this game, this permadeath in the sense that like if your ship got destroyed, it was like gone. And you'd have to like, but you'd still keep, I think, your money that you currently had and stuff like that. But essentially the game was, if you think about travel time, if you wanted to go from a star system to another star system, it would probably take you 20 minutes. Like to do a mission, to get to the mission was 20 minutes. And then you might get killed in the mission. So you'd have to go back, get a new ship, or like do some side missions to get a new ship to go do that mission later. And hopefully your ship's better, you know? Because it was like the RPG aspect of it was your ship stats, not your character stats. And I played it in college, and dog, it was a problem. You could be playing that game for like 8 hours, and you'd be like, what? It's been 8 hours? I thought it was 32 minutes. You know, it was like a group of us playing, and so we'd play on the same server, we do missions together. And I think I've shared the story about when the dudes had like this giant ship, and he attacked like the police station in space, which was they're impossibly strong, and he like destroyed it, like, cause he had this crazy freighter that could like shoot missiles and like all this crazy stuff. But in order to get stuff that good, you had to do basically, deliveries, and deliveries were basically trucking missions that took like 3 hours, but these were on freighters that had no weapons. So you would just drive. You wouldn't be fighting nothing. You would just drive for like 3 hours to deliver a payload to get you a lot of money, so you could get a bigger freight, so you could deliver more stuff to make more money to get a bigger freight. Like that was the system, bro. It was a problem. That was a guilty pleasure for sure.
And it sounds like Sea of Thieves.
Kind of. If Sea of Thieves actually lets you keep anything.
Right. Could you like play on autopilot? Like, could you be playing and your ship goes and you just kind of like do homework while the ship goes forward?
So yeah, you could put it in like whatever warp drive, but the problem is if you got attacked by bandits, you had to be like there.
You had to react.
Yeah, and you had to like deal with them, navigate them, like run away, because they were a problem. Like they would stop you from being in light speed, and you have to deal with them. Most of the time you would fight them. Most of the time you would just fight them, or you could flee, but it was like a dog fighting game, so you had to like flee them in a very specific way, like get out of there.
Yeah.
Like outmaneuver
Dodging.
them. Outmaneuver them. Yeah.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
I like space games. I was playing, what was it? Squadrons or something. It's on the PlayStation. You got me thinking about that. That game was a guilty pleasure for a little bit because it was not good. But it was fun.
It was very specific, like, it was not good.
Is this the game you're talking about? Did you play last year? Oh no, I'm thinking of Anthem. I watched you. Not Anthem. The Marvel game I watched you play.
Is that called Avengers? Marvel Avengers? What's that game called?
Wait, what are you thinking? What are you talking about?
The game you're talking about.
Didn't you play the Marvel Avengers game last year, the year before, and we watched you once or twice?
Mm-hmm. I streamed.
I remember watching. Yeah, you streamed that. That's not what you're talking about. You said Squadrons, and in my head, I had an image of flying, but now I'm realizing it was Tony Stark flying around, so that's not what it was.
This man.
Please continue.
In alternate
reality. So this was the Star Wars game.
Yeah, Squadron. Like Rogue Squad, but it was called Squadron.
I think that's what it's called. I'm missing. I'm probably messing it up. But
I think I saw you play that too, but I don't remember it being bad. I thought it was good.
Steve just creating memories.
I don't know if I ever shared that one.
I'm very impressionable.
I may have shared a clip, but I didn't stream that one or anything. I probably should have. I was playing it because I did want to get some footage because it's a nice looking game and it looks very fun, but it's not fun to play.
That's too bad.
And the longer I played it, the more cheap it started to feel. I would die for no reason. My ship wouldn't be as responsive as it felt like it was before. And then they kept adding these new mechanics and stuff with ships. Like you can boost, and someone would get these shields, but it'd be like these weird inputs where you have to like hold the left stick and then or left trigger, press a button while you're flying a ship at like 1,000 miles per hour. And so it was becoming too much.
It just reminds me of Fallen Order, just like a game that should be good but just isn't.
I feel like if it has the Star Wars IP, you just kind of give it a lot of grace,
you do.
And then when it falls, it just feels so bad.
It hurts you so badly. Yeah, no, you know, it's kind of, this reminds me of a game that is a great game, but I think could easily become a guilty pleasure because of how much time it takes out of your life, is Skyrim. Like, Skyrim, I remember the day I was sick. That's what happened. I was sick and I couldn't go to work. And I happened to have a copy of, actually our boy Rob had let me borrow Skyrim for the 360.
Rob.
And as sick as I was, as sick as a dog, it was the best, like, 18 hours of nonstop playing that I'd ever had. Because I had nothing else I could do, you know? And I remember I was doing missions where I would just be, like, following somebody for, like, 20 minutes, just creeping. And then they'd look back and be like, I think I heard something, you know?
Yeah.
And you'd be like, nah. Like, you know, and then they reset their path. I think I heard something, you know? And,
oh no.
And I'd be doing these like brotherhood missions and like doing these like, and they had cool storylines that were interesting, but it was just like, you could do anything. It felt like in that game, at least at that time, it felt so free willing that I eventually beat the main story, like kind of under duress because somebody told me I need to beat it. But I just felt like I was just playing a different life, you know, almost like The Sims, you know, but like in this other world. And it was a problem. It became a problem, genuinely.
I think Skyrim is really dangerous because in that game, you get experience for almost doing nothing. Like just following somebody and sneaking. And if they don't see you, you'll get experience from that. And it's like, that's dangerous, man.
Yeah. And just jumping, just walking,
jumping,
running, you know, swimming,
running speed increase,
eating food, eating efficient.
Speaking of RPGs, I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you guys know this, but maybe our listeners don't. The December PlayStation Plus free game combo includes the Mass Effect trilogy.
Yeah.
Which I've never played, but always had my eye on. That is something that I feel like will destroy my life if I give it fully.
Be careful.
Where's Steve?
But it's like, I'm looking forward to it because I really want to play it and experience it because I've heard so much. But on the other hand, I'm like, man, God of War is out. I still haven't played Elden Ring. We've been talking about Elden Ring for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's so many other things happening. I just don't know. Like,
let me say this, man.
I don't know, man.
I don't think you'd be wrong to play Mass Effect. Mass Effect is such a good game. It's such an experience. Like, you know, as much as Elden Ring, I've heard great things about it. It's a great game in the sense that gameplay is great and you're going to have moment to moment good, right? But Mass Effect, there is something so unique about it. There's no game that you could ever play that is like Mass Effect.
Oh.
It just...
So this is a non-guilty pleasure is what I'm hearing.
You'll feel guilty because of how much time you'll have to put into it. But I personally think it's worth it. I think it's worth the detriment that you'll have from other games.
Worth the sacrifice.
Yeah. Like, genuinely. Like, I've played 1, 2, and 3. 1, I think, is my favorite gameplay from a gameplay standpoint from the 3 games. 2 is better. It changed a lot of stuff. Like, it's less RPG in the second game. You'll see. And in 3, there's some stuff. But the story and the engagement that you have with the characters and that ability to choose how you interact with people is so powerful of an experience. The only other game that I think that ever gets close to the feeling of the meaningfulness of your choices are the
Spider-Man.
No. Walking the Telltale games.
Oh yeah.
And those are
Okay.
like a microcosm. But Mass Effect feels so much bigger. And I'm telling you, there's a moment where you do something, you make a choice about something, and then like you do not realize how big of an impact it's gonna have. And
Oops.
you won't know. I can't, even if me saying this, you're not gonna know, you know? And
Wow.
and there'll be moments where you'll sit there and be like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Because I know this is gonna have significant consequences, but I cannot be sure how it will affect the universe.
You'd be stressed out in real life over this game.
That's how I feel in real life.
Yes. But it's fun, man. It's worth, people have different feelings about the ending or whatever, but I think it's worth the experience.
Yeah, I've gathered that.
It's definitely worth the experience.
Brad is totally willing to sacrifice your time playing this game.
I mean, I've been
it sounds
debating
like
it
it.
myself. I have it.
That's a testament.
I have the trilogy, and I keep looking at it going, you know?
And you've played the whole game? You've played the whole trilogy before?
Mhm.
And
Have
you're,
you
you're
played
debating
Andromeda?
playing it again.
Have you played Andromeda? Yes. I've played all 3 games, and I have been debating playing through all 3 of them again. 100%.
Okay.
Like back and forth. I shouldn't. Like that kind of moment. I see it. I shouldn't download it to my console.
Now that it's downloaded, I shouldn't play it.
You know, it's
We can just make this into a Mass Effect podcast, make it seem like it's worth my while a little bit.
we could probably do a full podcast on the Mass Effect game, like full out. Like it would probably take us a year to get through it.
I mean, now that we have the trilogy for free, I'd be down to play one of them. Which one's the best?
That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Like,
Which one is the best?
honestly,
Choose.
I cannot imagine playing 2 without playing 1, and 3 without playing 1, or you know what I'm saying? Like it's that.
So one.
I would.
One is not the best, but that's the one you should play if you're going to play.
If you're
one,
gonna
is what
play
Brad
any
is
of them,
saying.
yeah, you got to start from 1. But you won't be able to not play 2 if you play 1. That's what I'm gonna say. It's like that. It's like that. It's like a really good binge-worthy series on Netflix or some other show. Like you're gonna be like, I can't not
Doesn't
stop here.
it carry over your choices to the next games too?
Yes. And
Now that's wild to me.
that
So what do they do if you don't play the first game? Do they just make choices?
basically
for you?
what they
The
do,
canon ending.
basically what they do is they like ask you some questions, I believe, at the beginning. Like,
Oh.
what type of person are you? Oh, like, what would you do? Like I believe that's how they do it. And then they just fill in the gaps and they just make those choices for you. But there's some choices. All I'm gonna say is like, some choices could happen without your input, basically. But you can,
So choices, like, there's compounding effects from your choices.
yeah, like imagine that an event would happen. Like something's gonna happen anyway. It's just a question of how you influence that event.
Mm-hmm.
So like you
What
might not,
side of it you're on?
not necessarily what side, but like the outcome of it. So in 2, for example, if you didn't do something, it would be more like, oh, you're reading about the news event and somebody's talking to you about like, oh, in sector X, Y, and Z, this thing happened. And you'll remember, oh, in game number 1, I could have like got engaged with that,
Oh, you could have been there.
you know? So,
I see.
or you won't interact with the character. So the character will have to tell you everything about themselves instead of you knowing because you met them in that circumstance. Or they'll have no relationship with you. They'll just be like, hey, how are you doing? But if you went through there, they would like hate you or love you, you know?
Oh,
And,
wow. That's
and
cool.
your dialogue choice would be completely different. It's crazy, dude. It
That's
is
pretty deep.
crazy. I can't.
So this is now a Mass Effect podcast. Welcome to the pod, everybody.
we should.
Definitely the cool thing about that would be we would have really unique experiences to share. I'm guessing if we did play through it.
Yeah,
and
it'd be
talk
very
about it.
different. It'd be very different. We could do it. I would be down. Like making a separate, like, long form. Once a month we do it. You know, talk about where, you know, just kind of try to stay in step with each other.
Yeah.
And you don't have to stay in step. Honestly, it's
Let me just play the game and see how
well. Here's the thing: the game is so big that like the only thing that would matter is if you did the major events, which are very obvious when you're going through.
Sure.
It. So it would just be like, don't do this thing, And we would know when we get there. So if we want to do it. Anyway.
So I have a game in mind that I think would become a guilty pleasure if I got back into it. So, and you'll probably know which game I'm talking about if I just say it didn't have the best launch and has changed a whole lot over like the last 3 years.
Anthem?
Added multiplayer, sort of, almost. You're really close.
I know what you're talking
about. Added multiplayer, added the base building, adding creatures. So 2 of my really good friends, one of which you know, shout out to the boy Simon, picked up No Man's Sky, One Man's Lie, as we call it.
One Man's Sleeping Pill.
One Man's Sleeping Pill, also. And they, or at least Simon, has been raving about the changes. And I've asked the hard questions in a lot of ways. You know, the things that I remember we dealt with, you know, the terrible survival mechanics, the atrocious tutorial that we had to go through that barely existed. And so I guess I'll name the good things with those is that there's also like it's not a creative mode necessarily, but you can dial down the survival stuff to where you can focus more on the exploration.
Cool, that's awesome.
There's an actual tutorial.
What?
And then the biggest thing to me was there's like not story necessarily, but there are missions that happen on planets to where you stay on a planet and things happen while you're there to make the planet seem like it should exist versus you going to a planet to get some weird material and then immediately leaving and not knowing what to do with the rest of your time.
Just an empty husk of a planet.
Yeah.
Okay. My only thought about this is that I have to be fair because if I ever ask somebody to play Fortnite and they played Fortnite in the past, when it was fort building and just 12-year-olds just murdering you. And I would be like, please play the game. It's so much better. And they're like, I can't play it because I played in the past. And it was like that. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if somebody could make that case, I still have No Man's Sky. I still have the copy. So I know, Kyle, you threw it into the space or something, right? Like,
yes. It's been incinerated.
So I'm down, man. At this point, I'm like, if Fortnite can change my mind, anything can.
I'm getting convinced, but I feel like it's gotten, just based on what I've heard, I feel like it's gotten so good, and I like space games so much. It would become a guilty pleasure for me if I picked that game back up. Because even the time I had it, just because, you know, driving the ship was pretty satisfying and stuff like that. Exploring space, it's a big game. I played it a lot when I hated it. So
some would say almost infinite.
Almost.
At least in our perspective.
Practically speaking, it's probably
in our perspective. Well, I mean, No Man's Sky. I mean, honestly, if I'm gonna say guilty pleasure games that we should invest in, Mass Effect, No Man's Sky. I almost want to go back and play Skyrim because I missed that experience. And once again, I should be playing other games.
You should buy it on Switch so you can use motion controls, dude.
Man, I don't want motion controls. No.
Skyrim VR, baby.
No.
Ooh, that's my guilty pleasure.
Gyro
playing
controls.
Playing shooters on PC with gyro aim.
You the one. You that guy at a Smash tournament playing Smash on a on a arcade
on a fight box
stick,
or something.
You know, like get out of here, bro. Get out of here.
hey, I swear by it.
So, hey, y'all, this has been great. There's so many, you know, it's interesting as we talk more. I'd love for us to talk about games that we want to play that we shouldn't play. Like, not guilty pleasures in the way that we were talking about before, but what we kind of have been talking about toward the end, the Mass Effects, the Skyrims, the No Man's Skies, the games that are like, man, I really want to invest in this, but it's probably a bad idea. I would love to hear more about some of those games. But
we could also do guilty pleasures of other non-game stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
I have a few things in mind for anime.
Absolutely. Oh, I have some that I can never tell anybody about. But
so you're hearing first here on the podcast.
No, I'm not going to even talk about it. I can't even talk about it.
Look forward to it.
That'll be a duo cast. Just me.
I'll do a off. We'll do a. You know what? For our Patreon followers, I will.
Let me be clear. We do not have a Patreon.
Click the link in the Discord.
And if anybody comes with you saying, "Hey, bro, I need $20 for that Patreon," Just trust them. Just give them the money. But
Trust them.
But really, hey, thank y'all so much for listening. You know, hey, we grown men out here. We adults. We got a lot going on. So this episode's a little bit shorter than normal, but know that it has the same amount of love that we give to our 2-hour or, you know, our Avatar-based episodes.
4-hour.
I'm sorry.
It's just more
our
condensed.
Last Airbender-based episodes. That much love. So thank you so much for listening. Hey, thank you, brothers. Thank you, Kyle, for your time.
Sir Brad, it has been a pleasure.
Yes, you have been knighted. You have been knighted. There you go. Thank you for that. Knight Steve. Can you get double knighted? I'll do
Double
that.
knighted?
Can
you get Fortnighted?
Put another set of armor on his armor. Can you give? That's what I'll do tonight. For your for doing what you did.
Fortnite me.
You've been Fortnighted. Thank you, Steve, for your time. You've been officially Fortnite. And as always, I just want to thank everybody who's listening to this podcast. Thank you to everybody who supports it, everybody who listens, talks to me about episodes. You know, when I see them in real life, I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate your followership. I appreciate your time. We love doing this, and we're going to be doing it for a long time. Maybe as long as it takes for us to finish No Man's Sky.
Could be a while.
It'll be a while. So thank you so much for listening. If you don't know where to listen to us, if you're first time listening to us, you can catch us everywhere. You can watch the video version of this on YouTube, and you can listen to audio versions on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher. We out there in these streets. If you don't know where to find us, just search us on Google, Super Agile Bros. We're there. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, y'all take it easy. Peace.
Fare thee well. Okay.
Yo, mama.